Mark, I know I asked you about Shea as a screener the other day, but I want to ask you more about just his versatility in terms of being able to put him anywhere on the floor at the start of possessions, in different stages of possession, just how much of a benefit his versatility is to being able to get him in advantageous positions within the flow of the offense, given how much attention he gets defensively.
Yeah, I think we want to move him around and we want to move everybody else around just so we're less predictable, harder to prepare for. And if you're, guarding him, you're not just guarding him in one situation. You're having to guard him in many. And same with all of our other players. I mean, it's part of the design of what we're trying to do.
You referenced the play where Dub drove baseline, found Wiggins, and forced a timeout. Is there any particular emotion when there's a play like that for you in the moment, or are you really, focused on the next play at that point, or is there something that does go through you in those moments when you have that, all five men contributing to a play?
Yeah, I think it's good for the team. It's good for the chemistry of the team. It's good for the trust that the team has in each other and in what we're doing. If you look at the invisible parts of that play, play started with a cut. It started with a quick action. Ball was moved out quickly. Everyone made quick decisions on the catch. There was a second cut on the backside of the play, a third cut to finish the play, and everybody made a quick decision. So I think those types of plays have energy, for our team. They can be deflating for the opponent. So certainly, the more the merrier.
And we talked about the fact that it was a low turnover game in game two, and you want your guys to be aggressive. But what stood out in particular about the way you guys are moving the ball that would lead to kind of the low turnover night that you guys had there?
I don't know. I mean, we've been low turnover all year. Some of that's personnel. We just, our highest usage guys are pretty low turnover players, and so that's got something to do with it. And then systematically, we try to have pretty easy A to B plays that are not, where you feel like you have to hit home runs. We try not to play in a crowd. We try to keep ourselves out of the situations where you pick up a lot of turnovers. And, so again, it's not a huge point of emphasis for us. It's more about how we want to play and trusting that that'll yield quality shots. And part of quality shots is getting a shot up.
J-Dub specifically had 7 assists that night. Just what did you see from him in terms of his floor game and the way he was kind of getting that blender going?
Yeah, he just plays, again, I don't remember a ton of them. He had that one to Wiggins that I do remember, but I think it's mostly just him playing the right way and us finishing those plays on that particular night. So, it's part of what makes him such a dynamic creator is that he can get his own stuff going, but he also makes very simple passes, even for non-assists, that help our offense.
The guys after game one talked about the mindset being, approaching it as if McCollum's shot did go in after game one.
Yep.
What has been maybe a trigger mentally for you all heading into game three to get to that 0-0 mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about an understanding that the opponent is going to be hungry and that the environment's going to be hostile, and that's going to be the context of the game. And that you've got to have, great mental toughness and you've got to have great focus within that context to perform well enough to win that game. So, it's easier said than done, but that's our challenge.
Not to look too far ahead, but for 3 games, you had a couple of days off between games. Between games 3 and 4, I think you only had 1 day off. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages in both those scenarios?
I mean, the rest is an advantage the more time you have. The rhythm of, we're not used to playing this few games in this amount of time, and the every other day gets us back towards kind of a regular season rhythm. But any advantage or disadvantage that exists for both teams. So it really is nothing that you gain over your opponent. It's just about how you handle it.
How do you think the hostile environment in New Orleans can benefit a young team like the Thunder?
It's going to force us. I mean, it's going to test us. It's going to force us to focus through the noise, literally, on executing possession by possession. But it's not our first road game. Obviously the road playoff environments are a little more live as it was here in Oklahoma City. But we've performed well on the road because our team has had great focus on what we need to get done in those environments, and that's what we have to do if we want to come away with a win in Game 3.
Mark, I want to ask you about JRE. Well, even if he didn't have the most consistent role while he was here, just want to press you about his approach on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, like most of our other guys, was a part of the team, highly professional, very reliable, day to day, hard worker. Really cared about the team, cared about his craft, and really enjoyed being around him. I mean, all those guys, him, the guys we talked about in Charlotte, the guys that were part of this build, they have their fingerprints on the environment that exists today. The guys have great respect for those guys. I have great respect for those guys. He's included in that.
Mark, we've talked a lot about kind of taking Lou's defense for granted because it is so consistent in a playoff series. What's it been like just seeing what he's been able to do against Ingram and the effort he's kind of put forth fighting through screens and staying?
Yeah, just for clarity, I've never taken Lou's defense for granted. So if anybody is, it's not me. But he's an incredible competitor. He's physical, but he's got a relentlessness about him. He's got a humility about him. It takes humility to guard guys like that are capable of making really tough shots after you give your best on a possession and not having that deflate you for the next possession or the next game even. And so he's had games where he's gotten lit up by those guys because they're really good players and that's what they do. But it never impacts his effort. It never impacts his spirit. It set an incredible tone for us. And what he's doing right now is just a continuation of what he's always done.
How was his defense? I mean, that was his calling card from day one. How has it gotten better?
You can ask him. Is he coming over here? He looks like he's loitering over there. I'd be interested. I think he's really learned the league. I think he's improved the craft of it. I think at the beginning he was just like raw energy, and was just doing it on will. And obviously his physical, capabilities as well as his relentless nature, that got him pretty far. It got him 85% of the way there. And, even as a rookie, he was incredibly impactful. But he's really touched up the edges. He's learned some tricks, I think, to the point where now he does some things sometimes that we don't teach. But he's just kind of, some of the stuff with Ingram, even off ball, sometimes he's trailing him, sometimes he's topping him, sometimes he's just giving the guy different looks. That's not the scouting report. That's just us kind of unleashing him on the game. And I think there's more of a method to that madness than maybe meets the eye.
Do you have to get to that kind of level of trust as a defender to sort of let him do his thing out there?
Yeah, when they're elite at something, you got to let them be elite. So this guy's an elite passer. You got to let him pass. Chet's an elite rim protector. We don't overcoach those things when it's an elite skill. We coach them hard. We've coached Lou hard on his offense, his shot selection, his decision making, but we leave him alone, when it comes to his defense for that reason. He's elite at it, so we let him go be who he is.